If your partner or spouse seems depressed, there's actually a lot that you can do to help. As a couples therapist, I see this all the time. The most noticeable changes that you may be seeing in your partner that could be signaling depression are usually like sudden changes in their behavior or mood, or it could be subtle and kind of maybe it's been creeping into your life for a while. Perhaps they're not sleeping well, or they're eating or drinking a lot more or a lot less. Maybe they're not interested in sex lately, or they're moodier. Maybe they're more just kind of irritable or having outbursts or angry, or they're not wanting to connect with you or anyone else for that matter as much. Maybe they're avoiding hobbies or activities that they once enjoyed, or maybe they're starting to get more obsessive or into compulsive behaviors, like spending a lot of money or drinking alcohol or gambling or porn. But anyways, if your depressed partner starts to withdraw from you and you're noticing it, um, and they're starting to get more irritable or reacting in an angry way all the time, or just seeming down and sad, or crying or becoming tearful, it's really easy to start feeling hurt or to start taking it personally when you're seeing it day in and day out, probably more closely than anyone else. Most of us who have a depressed partner want to respond kind of in a similar way as our partner. If they're getting angry, we want to respond with anger or criticism, or maybe defensiveness or being unkind. But if you do this, it can become like a vicious cycle where they become more depressed and irritable, and maybe you become angrier or feel even more upset or distant from them. But the good news is, take heart. Depression is complex, yes, but it is also very treatable. Although it's not something that you alone can fix, or that they alone can fix. All of us humans are really social creatures, and we need other people to get out of a state of depression. So, um, you know, you're of course a big part of them getting better, but you can't do it alone. So they're likely going to need to see a counselor. They're going to need the support of you and friends and family, and maybe even some medication. Remember that it's not your fault. Remember that it's not their fault. It's the depression. And so, of course, if someone's irritable and moody with you all the time, you want to be moody right back. But remember, depression's treatable, and with proper help, it won't last forever. And, it's really easy to not just get mad at them, but maybe to get mad at yourself or blame yourself. But there's nothing that you could have done to cause depression or to fix it. Thankfully, most couples do survive periods of depression, and people with a loving spouse or partner are so much more likely to make it out of a depressive episode, because they have someone, who's encouraging them to get help, and someone who cares and is expressing that they care. So if you're feeling desperate, to help your loved one, um, you know, maybe so desperate that you want to start telling their friends and family, or to get them to do some sort of intervention, just be really cautious about that. It's really easy when you're depressed to get really defensive, or to feel really upset if people are talking about you. So, of course, you need to be able to talk about your feelings. You need to be able to share with other people. But the most important first step is to talk to them directly, and just try to open up with them about what you've been seeing and observing, really from a compassionate and loving place. Share your concern with them, kind of get in there and get out. Try to sit back and listen mostly, if they're willing to talk, which, of course, when you're depressed may be unlikely. So you could start out with something like, you've seemed really sad lately, or you seem really down and you don't really seem like yourself lately. Um, what's going on? So again, a quick observation, sharing your own feelings, but um, an open-ended question, just to kind of ask them if they're willing to talk about it. Don't jump into any theories or problem solving immediately. It is okay, of course, to share your own feelings and let your partner know how you changes. But it's really tricky to do that in a non-blaming way. So, for example, you could say something like, I really miss talking to you and spending time with you. Or, I miss you. We haven't had sex in a while. Or, I know you've been down lately, and I'm really trying to be patient with you while you're going through this. It's just a little hard to not take it personally. Or, again, just quickly observe something and share your feelings. But always indicate hope. I really hope that you'll get through this. I'm here for you, whatever you're going through, if you want to talk. But know that more likely than not, when you first bring this up with them, they may deny the problem, they may get defensive, they may even get irritable or angry or blame you. But remember, it's not your fault. This is common with depression. Usually they're not able to see their own problems clearly. They often don't believe they have a problem at first, or they don't believe that it can be fixed. Maybe they admit, yeah, I'm depressed, but they don't feel very hopeful about it being fixed. Or they blame themselves, or they blame you, or they blame something, and maybe they just feel hopeless. So they may just want to be heard, or they may not want to talk about it, and they may even make it worse. They may want space and isolation, and they may just hope that it'll get better on its own. But more likely than not, it won't, and it will likely grow worse if it's just left untreated. So while you're not only trying to not blame them, to not be harsh, to not be mean, you are likely going to get overwhelmed as you see their problem grow, and especially if you see them not doing anything about it, not seeking professional help, or seemingly like they're just kind of letting the depression take over. And if they continue to resist getting any help, or if they continue to isolate further, or their symptoms seem to be getting worse, it's important not to just try to fix it yourself. And it's also important not to just let them be consumed by the depression. And if they're especially if they're acting out in really unhealthy ways of coping, like drinking alcohol, taking drugs, overeating, or maybe like compulsive sexual behaviors or porn, they may be rationalizing what they're doing and saying something like, I'm just stressed, or I need this, or it just takes the edge off to get me through this, lay off, So if someone's being really defensive, remember that you as their partner are the most likely to see them clearly, warts and all, and you're also the most likely to be the one most affected by this and hurt by this. And no one else is really going to be as bought in and care as much about them, about getting them help. So bringing up the issue and encouraging them to seek help is the best that you can do. And it may be really difficult, but if they're refusing to get help for a problem, you may have to use some leverage and really strongly encourage them. And then it might be time to bring in friends and family if they're not listening to you. And so obviously you can't force someone to get help. And as they say, you can, lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. This is certainly true. And one of the best things that you can do, again, is just, really strongly encourage them, put their foot down, put your foot down, say, if you don't go see a therapist by yourself, how about let's go see a therapist together? You can always see a therapist as a couple. And even if they're not willing to do that, you can also just go see a therapist yourself, and you can let them know, like, if you're not going to go, I'm going to go get some support because I'm really struggling watching you go through this. And so unfortunately, there's not a quick fix. They are likely to get defensive or to deny the problem, but do not, give up. Continue to encourage them, to be affectionate and love them, and to share your hope, but also be very firm that, this isn't going to fix itself. I really need you to go seek some help. And usually at some point, if you plant enough seeds, if you're getting some help and they're seeing that this is helping you, they might be more open to seeing a therapist, especially if they know that every single week you're going and talking about them. Sometimes that can be motivating in itself. So again, remember, there is hope. You can take care of yourself and get support during this if they're not willing to seek help. And most people eventually, when they have someone who loves them and cares about them, who continues to share concern, will eventually say yes to help. But it's a fine balance between, becoming too codependent and trying to rescue them versus, just completely joining them in their delusion that this is going to get better on its own and not saying anything or pretending like there's not a problem. The middle ground is really going to be being loving but firm that this is something that has become a problem and that you really want them to get help from.